mean, like, think about the Oprahs, think about the Johnny Carsons, think about the Larry Kings, think about the greats, right? Like, what do they have in common? And what I did was I like to quantify numbers. They all had over 30,000 interviews under their belt. So when I thought about that, I'm like, okay, so what I can do is I can be responsible for my actions, and I can map out a career of what it would look like for me to get to 30,000 interviews.
Mhm.
And so after I did that, I'm like, okay, now let's take it a step further. What happened? Like, let's assume I do get a little bit better. Like, are there any other advantages? Is there anything else? And what I came up with was that our distribution today, believe it or not, is better than it was back then. So if you think about it, like I think about, and I like to talk about this one, Johnny Carson, I mean, the great, right? 30 years on TV plus, his other career beforehand. Like, you can't Google and listen to any interview that Johnny Carson did. Same thing with Oprah. You can't Google and listen to any interview she's ever done. Why? Because she wasn't doing this in her early days. There was no podcast. There was no distribution. There wasn't Apple and Spotify doing the distribution. There wasn't RSS feeds that are carrying this to 40, 50 different platforms. So if you think about it, for somebody that has the right mindset, and if they're looking at this in the term of 30, 40, 50, 60 years of doing this business, somebody that's looking like that, they actually have an advantage on somebody like a Johnny Carson, who is the greatest, because he didn't have the distribution. So now I'm like, okay, so I have an advantage in distribution. I understand that if my actions, if I develop a company and a model and the systems in place that make it to where I can't fail in hitting my 30,000, 40, 50,000 interviews in my lifetime, then at the end of all this, I'll probably have more than I ever imagined.
Yeah, I mean, you start thinking of those numbers, and when I just reach back in my mind to think, yeah, they probably did so many radio interviews or just so many interviews that never
recorded.
Yeah,
it wasn't recorded. And if it was recorded, they're in vaults and they'll never be released. They don't know. The people that are in charge of that content don't know what to do with it. They still don't know what a reel is.
I know. That is so crazy. So.
And by the time they do figure it out, another generation passed, and too late.
So as you've been doing this and you're spending the time and you're all over the place, do you believe that you've sacrificed anything in relationships or sacrificed some of the time at home or anything like that? Maybe kind of talk about how you've, and this word called balance, I want you to know before I even say that isn't something that I think everybody should strive for every day, because I don't think there's any such thing. I think there's seasons, but to have true balance, what the heck is that? I don't know.
I don't know. I'll tell you, at this point in my journey in life, I look at myself more like a conduit. Like, I'm a conduit of energy, and I'm more so thinking of, like, when I think about the blessings that, God's given me, when I think about all the things and I think about the work and I think about the differences I'm making, I don't really, I'm not really thinking about myself too much day to day, to be honest. So I don't have kids. I'm not married. I don't have any of that stuff going on. I'd like to be one day. I'd like to have kids, like to be married, that kind of stuff. But realistically, I just feel like there's different ways that people get value out of life. And I think my work's important. Like, I see day to day how I'm helping people. I see what's happening. I see, like, I'll give you an example. Right now, I'm doing this series. It's called Africa Forward. And it's talking about, and I'm delving into the lives of entrepreneurs and people in Africa and some of the things that they're doing. And I think about it on this one particular gentleman I had on. He has a solar company, and he's working with the World Bank on the World Bank, like, I think it's called 300 million initiative. And they're looking at how they build and how they're bringing electricity to, I think it was 300 million people or something like that in Africa. And right now, the price point is down to $1 per month to get this solar energy. So it's finally, for the first time ever in history, price is not the issue. So when you think about this, think about the United States during this time when we finally had electricity. What does that mean? That meant that we could do that education, our entire education changed. That means that we didn't have to go home early from the farms to make sure we had food cooked and to be sleeping by the time it got, dark or with a little candle. That meant that we were able to have more hours of productivity earlier in the day. That completely changed with the same amount of people. Our output, our productivity, our ability to be creative, our ability to create, for distribution, for everything.